Excuse me.
Yes, Corin?
I'm a little bit worried about my friend.
Your friend?
Yes, Legiana.
Oh, that kind of friend.
Yes, well, she's been a little bit sick recently.
Oh, did she maybe eat some poison?
Excuse me?
Well, poison makes her quite sick.
Oh, really? Poison makes people sick? Thanks, genius!
Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, welcome one and all to a fun, neat little discussion/list about some of the most unique interactions in the game. The ones that make you stop and just really appreciate the passion put into the little details of the game. Inspired, of course, by our recent realization that Legiana vomits poison if you poison her, because she is just that weak to poison. But that was already talked about on this channel, so it will not be included as an item on today's list. It was merely the inspiration for the list, which of course is the top 5 most unique interactions in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. So without further ado, let's begin with
Number 5.
Do the roar.
You know anything? How about one of those famous Shrek roars?
Do the roar.
Let me set you straight, Butterpants. An ogre only roars when he's angry. You don't want to see me angry, do you?
Do it.
Ancient Forest Spooky Roar.
In some very particular areas within the ancient forest, in some very particular situations, some players have on rare occasion encountered a sound. If you've never heard it before, you probably won't recognize it from a creature, but those who have heard it definitely won't forget it. This loud, booming shriek of anger, almost like a creature of massive size trying to scare away nearby wildlife. As far as anyone can tell, this isn't a roar of any monster that we know to exist in the series, yet it's in the game. And it can happen. Maybe it's the implication that the ancient forest tree itself may be a bit more living than your standard tree is. Or maybe there was a monster conceptualized around this roar that just never made it to the actual game, or they stuck it in as an Easter egg anyways, just because, you know, they can. In any case, this one is really cool to just stumble upon and have no idea what on earth is happening. When it first happened to me, it felt like my first basil geese encounter. Like I thought a nuke was about to go off under my feet. It was terrifying, but also just so blood-pumpingly exciting at what it could potentially be. But I guess we'll never know.
Number 4. Rotten Vale in Coral Highlands.
Interaction is a weird word to describe this one, but I guess it is an interaction between two of the maps. Technically, if you paid attention to the story of the game at all, then you know that the Rotten Vale is under the Coral Highlands, the nutrients of all of the dead monsters in the Rotten Vale being what fuels the rich flora and fauna of the highlands above. However, did you know that there is one very particular part of the Coral Highlands that actually is the Rotten Vale? You can in fact climb low enough in Zone 6 of the map that things will become less and less alive looking, like a literal transition into the Rotten Vale for a small amount of space at the bottom here. This is just such a neat little zone for a couple of reasons, one of which being of course the literal ecological interaction between these two maps, but the second is the fact that Odogaron can spawn in the Coral Highlands, but no other Rotten Vale monster can. He is the only one. To me, the implication of this area is that this is how Odogaron gets here initially, through climbing this crazy cliffside and squeezing through these gaps the way only an extendably clawed-fanged wyvern could. These are exactly the kinds of details that make this game feel so alive to me, in ways that the older games just didn't quite do. They felt linked between themselves, the split areas making everything connect as far as a map goes, but Monster Hunter World has this feeling if you can just see everything from everywhere, even just a little bit. You can see the mountains in the distance from the ancient forest. You can see where the ancient forest transitions to the Wildspire Wastes in the distance. Then this zone in the Coral Highlands that looks like the Rotten Vale, it all feels so connected to each other, so almost real, and that is why this has to be on this list for me.
Number 3.
Moving on, how was the spa?
Spa?
Hot Spring Running Interactions.
And this one is a bit sillier, but these silly things are also what make Monster Hunter what it is to me. You can't have all of this serious, edgy, badass stuff without having the goofy, silly side to balance it out sometimes. At least in my personal opinion. Everything that wants to be that level of cool has to be willing to laugh at itself too. And things like this are exactly that. In the gathering hub of Celiana, it is quite clear when you are in the hot springs that you can sit down, interact with things, do a couple of actions, switch to swimming clothing, but what a lot of people never realize in here is if you hit the button to sit down while you are sprinting, you'll do this hilarious falling animation, then sit up into the normal sitting in the hot spring interaction menu. But then, even past that, an even more unique interaction with this is if you do that running fall onto a slope, you'll have a hilarious water slide-like animation that will continue for a while before standing you back up. Essentially just a fun way to travel a little bit faster through this area. And even past this, if while in the water slide animation, you let go of the sprint button, you will stop sliding super early. As if this wasn't enough, you can crawl around in the spring as well from the sitting position, and from there you can bonk your head into the pillar. There is just so much care for detail put into this game. This is the type of little thing that I'll remember was in this hub forever. Even 10 years down the line from now, I will remember this.
Number 2.
Let me explain something to y'all real quick. Ain't gonna be like you think. Cheddar already told y'all. We ain't here.
Shara Ishvalda Arena Walls.
And this is one of the ones that is here more for just how recently we realized it. In fact, a number of you also only realized it in a video that we recently released just last week. In the very first phase of the Shara Ishvalda fight, there are actually jumpable ledges that you can climb in very specific parts of the arena. How did we not see these? These are so useful for so many weapons, and I just had no idea until recently. But even past that, it is also worth noting that in the second phase of the fight, there are 3 sets of droppable boulders above certain points in the wall. Most hunters, if they even bother with these, will try to trigger them by flint-shotting Shara into the wall, which does of course work, but is very hard because you need him to be aiming that direction and his beams have a tendency to get rid of the rocks on their own. However, it may surprise you to find out that you can actually just bomb these rocks down if you want to. 2 barrel bombs is all it takes, and then bam, rocks fall down. Maybe this is useful, maybe this isn't. That decision is yours to make, but the interaction itself is interesting nonetheless, considering it's quite surprising to me that bombs down here can cause that amount of destruction at the top of the arena. I never assumed it would work that way, and therefore I just, until recently, never tried it. So there you go. Technically 2 interactions for the price of 1 because they're both Shara Ishvalda based. Actually, why not throw in a third? This one isn't too out of the ordinary, but it is pretty unusual to see it happen, so it's worth mentioning. Shara Ishvalda can be mounted, just like most monsters in the game, assuming that you have a way of doing jump attacks. So there you go. Ishvalda facts!
Number 1.
Lassie! What is it, girl? Is someone in trouble? Is it a fire girl? A drowning?
Herbivore Gifts.
Okay, so one of my favorite mechanics added in Iceborne, scratch that, one of my favorite mechanics in the entirety of this generation of Monster Hunter so far is the ability to ride certain small monsters, not just the tail raiders, but specifically the herbivores you find around the maps, the Popos, the Aptonos, the Absaros, the Kelbies, etc, etc. You can ride them all, and you can ride various sizes of them too, from the biggest one you could find to the tiniest baby of them, probably injuring its spine in the process, but having a super fun, cute time that is worth it. If you, like me, have a strange fascination with this mechanic, then you have probably found that on some occasions, sitting on a herbivore's back will result in the creature taking you on a short walk and digging up an item for you. Nothing major. I've gotten things like mite seeds in the past, but it's just a tiny, neat little thing that's like, hey, this creature actually likes you, so it is providing you with a gift. This right here makes the game feel so alive to me. I love killing the large monsters, don't get me wrong. I love killing them as much as the next guy, trust me. I get a real kick out of it. But the things that make me love this series the way that I do, with the passion that I have for it, are the moments in between the hunting, the lore, the settings that we fight in, the little moment-to-moment quirky, unique things like this right here. This is truly what makes Monster Hunter what it is. Alright everyone, I've been Cotton Dinosaur and this has been the top 5 unique interactions in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Have you seen any or all of the interactions listed in this video? What other awesome little details in the game do you think more people should be aware of? Like if you like the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
This is the brand new outro to tell you all the things that you do that we love. So let's start with something simple and say, oh, we love your eyes. When they're watching us play video games, when we make a bunch of jokes that are kinda lame, or when they gaze upon our failures as we try to kill the monsters, or important news about the kingdom and Amelia. Rage, Cotton, and Hollow are all here, talking about the things you want to hear. So if you want to be the first to hear, like and subscribe and the bell and we'll cheer. Some of you are patrons even though we are all the noobs and you're the pros. There's nothing we can do to thank you. No, really, there's nothing we could possibly do. Goodbye.